and I go to Documents, you can see that I have a folder out here that says IUPUI SAM project files. You're going to have access to this document here that gives you the instructions typed out of the steps that I am taking in the video as well. So I give you some resources that I used on the University IT Support site, UIT's site. I utilized a document called Setting Up and Using IUanyWare. One that said work with files when using IUanyWare applications. And then finally the one that said about the Citrix Workspace app. You need to install this Citrix Workspace app in order to be able to utilize the files on your hard drive on a Mac. Excuse me. So we're going to open up Safari, and then I'm going to use the third document in Safari to connect to download this Workspace, Citrix Workspace. So we'll open up Safari. And then I'm going to copy this link. I should be able to click on it. There we go. Click the link and it takes me to about the app. Now some of you may remember from earlier videos that I do have a Windows application that runs on my Mac, but it's over here. It's not active right now. As a matter of fact, I'm going to go ahead and do a shutdown of Windows to ensure that it's not in any way affecting this, so that you can see it's going to work on your Mac, whether or not you have a Windows application running. So we'll give this just a minute to shut down. Windows is stopped, so I can just go ahead and minimize that. And now I am back to my Safari. Alright, so if I click on this link that says I can download the latest version of the Workspace app, I'll choose that. And then you need to choose that you're downloading for the Mac, because there's also Citrix Workspace applications for other operating systems. You'll want to verify that you have one of these versions of the Mac OS. Otherwise, you would need to get an older version of this Citrix Workspace, and I'm not sure that it would work or not. So I've not tested the older versions. So we'll download the app. While this is downloading, we can minimize both of these. I'm going to go ahead and close this document. Alright, so once you get it open or downloaded, you go ahead and double click to start the installation. There's obviously an install and an uninstall, so we would choose to install. Say to continue. You're going to have to continue multiple times. You do have to agree to the license. You can change the location that it's installing or just leave it the default. And then you do have to give it the password that you use to install software on your computer. You do not want to check the box that says to add an account. You just want to click continue. And then once it's successful, you can go ahead and close. You can choose what you do with the installer once you're done. You can either keep it or move it to the trash. I'll go ahead and keep it and do some cleanup when we're done. Now next we want to go ahead and open up the application. So I'm going to choose my Finder and I'm going to go to Applications. And you can see I have this new Citrix workspace. So I can open that up. Again, do not add the account. Just cancel. I might consider to make sure this was docked to my menu bar here, but you don't have to. And now I'm going to go back into Safari. So when I open up Safari now this time, I want to go into IUanyWare. So I'm going to choose IUanywhere.iu.edu and I'm going to log in. Make sure you do your Duo login. And it'll ask you to install this Citrix reader or receiver, excuse me. So click you agree with the license and install that. Go ahead and install the receiver. Okay, so it's going to close the workspace. Put in your password. Don't create the account. All right, so once you have that done, you can go ahead and continue. So now you're going to want to come up here. The first thing I do is in the apps, I want to set my favorites. You'll notice mine is set to automatically have 3 options on my favorites. So if you go to apps and you search for the word Microsoft, you'll find Access 2019. Click on Details. You can click this button here that says Add to Favorites. Then hit the back arrow and do the same thing for Excel 2019 and Word 2019. Once you set those as your favorites, they'll always be accessible on this favorites bar. It makes it much easier to access the software for the rest of the semester. Now you'll want to go to this arrow next to your name and choose Activate. It'll download this receiver config. Let's go ahead and open up the workspace. And then Double click on the receiver config and say agree. When it starts configuring your workspace, it'll ask you to log in again, so use your Canvas login again. And it will open up the IUanyWare in your workspace. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and close Safari. And now you're going to click on the drop-down arrow in the workspace. You'll notice you have an option here called Preferences. If you go to the File Access option, you can choose Read and Write. This will give you access to your files in your documents on your Mac. So I'm going to go ahead and close this. And then I'll show you how it will work now when you open up your Word app, for example. And you say, I'm going to go ahead and close that X, File, and then you go to Browse. You'll notice now you have a local drive on your MacBook. I have some other drives that are attaching for myself as well because I'm attached to my server. And so I have other sources of files, but you'll have your local disk on your MacBook. And then if you go into Documents, you'll also have access to your Downloads folder. You can see that I put all of my IUPUI-SAM project files in one folder. I can open up and then open the document and I get access to those files. Same way if you open up Excel. You go to File and then Browse, and again you have access to the files on your local disk. Go to Documents. You can open up one of the files, get access to those. And then finally, Access. So I'm gonna do a couple things in Access just so that you see. So we can open up, go by Open Other and choose Browse, then go to our local drive, locate the files we want to open, and we can open up an existing database. It does take a few minutes longer to open. Make sure you enable the content and you can see the information is all in the database. Don't panic if it says not responding. It's just getting everything ready. And now you can see it's ready for you to work with. But I also want to go ahead and close this one and show you how to create a new database very quickly. So I'm going to go ahead and open up Access. And instead of opening a file, I'm going to say create a blank database. Notice where it's telling me it's going to create it. It is not going to use my local disk unless I browse. So if I browse, then I can come over here and tell it to create one in my MacBook Pro. Here we go, sorry. MacBook Pro. Go to my documents. And then I can choose to create a new one that we'll call Test IUanyWare. So now notice it says it's going to the client H documents and this, and when I create it, it builds that new database. We're going to rename this field user ID. And then I'm going to save the table as test user. And then I'm going to go ahead and close my database. So the next time I go back into Access and I want to find that database that I created, I'm going to choose Open Other, and I'm going to browse, and you can see if I choose the H drive, which is my MacBook Pro, and I go to Documents, you can see that that Test IUanyWare is still accessible to me on my drive. If you use this approach when you download your files from SAM, I would recommend that you create one folder in your documents and you put all of your downloaded files in here. Then every time you're creating new files or working with them, you can use the same folder for all of your files. When you're done working and you go to upload your work either to a Canvas assignment or a Canvas or a SAM assignment, you can go back into Safari and when you log in, and let's just say I needed to attach it to a message instead of doing a So let's say I'm going to send this to one of the students. I'm not really going to send it, but I'll show you that when I go to attach it, I can get to Documents, I can get to, and I can select the file that I created, attach it to the message, and then I could say test, or excuse me, send. So you can download to the files, and then you can upload from that same area once you get IUanyware connected to use it. The nice thing too is, let's say I close this because I'm done working with it today. If you leave it docked on your menu bar, when you open it back up, it will automatically open here. And once you have set your preferences, they should stay that way. So you shouldn't have to do that every time. So let's say you rebooted or you quit the app. When you go back into your Finder and you go to Applications, make sure you open up the workspace, not the receiver. The receiver does not communicate on your desk to your desk or your computer's local files. So you open up your receiver, and notice it already knows that I'm supposed to attach to the Canvas one. Now it could ask us to log in again as far as entering your credentials, so it knows you're a legitimate user, but it should remain set up and the preferences should stay once you've set them. I hope this helps. Please contact your instructor if you still have any problems or concerns.